SEPTEM-BEAR is upon us, and many of the bulls of Wall Street bets have been its prey already. Portfolios have been mauled, retirement funds eaten alive, and optimistic degens and apes have been left for dead. Today we're not just looking at the gain porn, we're diving into the most brutal losses so far this season. Pretty obviously in this video, this is not financial advice. If you want to copy these guys, I really hope you brought your bear spray. We'll start with X-Man IV. The gambling addiction began for him 3 years ago when he posted in Wall Street Bets, quote, "If you had 20K right now to degen invest, what would you do and why?" He's seen in 2023 bag holding dozens of random altcoins and literally zero Bitcoin, and just this week, X-Man IV took to the Wall Street Bets subreddit to let us know that his initial $60,000 YOLO into ticker FLYY, or Spirit Airlines, took a nosedive down to just $17,000 for a loss of 43K. Even worse is that if X-Man IV didn't sell his shares, they're now worth just $7,000. Spirit has been getting absolutely wrecked and is facing bankruptcy, so there's really no silver lining in this case. Even Wall Street Bets was calling this guy out. What do you mean before the second bankruptcy? Wasn't the first one a sign not to buy in? Talk about catching a falling knife. Next up, we're going to meet a Redditor who specifically made his account for this one post. User 1,000,000, aka not giving up, took his $500 portfolio up to 500K and then lost it all, ending back at $500. 1,000,000 writes that it took only 2 months to hit the peak and had back-to-back winners. This was from Tesla calls, GameStop plays, and a handful of other trades. At peak, however, OP went full port into General Electric, but the real mistake came not from that one bad trade, but rather the revenge trades that took place afterwards. OP ended up penniless, except for the $500 he'd started with. I hope he learned his lesson, and at the very least, learned not to revenge trade. And now for the most degenerate trade of the week, let me introduce you to Rob Boost 330. This guy's trip to the moon and back was sure something, and it all happened just this year. It started on May 13th when Rob grew his account from $18,000 to $50,000, showing a mix of QQQ and SPY puts and calls that made him several $1,000s each. Most impressive was that he was down up until just a couple days prior, down but not out of course. He clawed his way back to near his original investment amount. But Rob was not done. On May 19th, he returned with a post showing he now had $98,000, with the lion's share of that week's gains taking place on that very day. The gains were mostly from QQQ calls on that day, expiring that same day. High risk and high reward. I can see with this mentality why his portfolio mooned so quickly and then so quickly fell right back to earth. As for his strategy, Rob admitted that he was down long term and had to stop trying to play the market. Now he says he's using his paychecks to YOLO his way back into the green. And on that Friday, May 23rd, just 4 days later, Rob had another doubling, this time with $189,000 in his portfolio. It was more of the same plays, QQQ calls expiring the same day. Rob claimed that the YOLO plays were giving him palpitations, but it sure felt good to sell in the green. Another minor red flag I can see now in retrospect, knowing he lost it all, is that he had zero stop losses. He just, quote, watched and prayed the positions would go his way. But the music hadn't stopped yet. On May 27th, Rob returned to show he'd passed the $250,000 mark despite all of the red flags I pointed out prior. Claiming he had sold the QQQ calls too early, Rob remained optimistic about playing Nvidia earnings, which were approaching pretty quickly. Despite another win, there were a few more red flags under the surface. For example, Rob admitted that he threw all his money into a single trade on options that expired the same day, and that he just prayed that his account wouldn't blow up. The next day, on May 28th, Rob returned with more gains from QQQ and Nvidia calls. By this point, Wall Street Bets was starting to gain some respect for this guy, confirming that he did indeed YOLO his entire portfolio every single day, and they were starting to take him a bit more seriously. On May 30th, Rob YOLO'd in the wrong direction for once. You can only win by betting it all on black so many times, and he was down nearly $500,000. He said, quote, "Gotta have a diamond nutsack to play this game," but the music still hadn't stopped. Rob returned on June 9th to declare, "Somebody stop me," with now $1.4 million in his portfolio. I'm not exactly sure how he wiggled himself out of the May 30th debacle where he was down 500K, but now powered almost exclusively by SPY calls and good vibes, Rob was making more than the average American salary every single day. You know it's getting out of hand when Wall Street Bets is telling you to, quote, take out $1 million and to play with the rest. On June 11th, Rob claims that he'd been, quote, loyal to the game and the game is loyal to me too. And he was even feeling a bit cocky, asking if they thought he was considered an inside trader. Now with a $1.8 million portfolio, Rob casually made in the past week what most take an entire lifetime to accrue. Unsurprisingly, these gains were also from S&P 500 calls expiring the same day. This bull lived to see another day, and a foreshadowing and haunting comment was here by Overad145 that the lost porn would feed generations. Prophetic indeed, as on August 27th, a humbled Rob returned to the forum after 2 months of silence and wrote that he'd been losing straight for the past 2 months. He finally had returned to the $1 million mark with a couple of good trades. He dedicated this post to the quote, "Regards who think it's not possible to continue after losing. It just takes a few good bets and some massive balls. Stay loyal." It looks like the bottom for him was 87K, but he'd clawed back to 600K and then made another $600,000 in one day with S&P 500 calls on August 27th. And just like that, Rob was so back as a millionaire. And before revealing the final post, I thought this comment was hilarious, a stern rebuke and funny misunderstanding. User I Scratch My Butt wrote, "You had $1 million and could have gotten free weekly BJs off just interest payments from Colombian hoes, and you decided to waste it on zero data expiration options?" To which user Stony Gwyn says he had to look up what Colombian hoes were on Yahoo Finance. He thought it was a high dividend paying ETF. As for Rob, the music finally did stop. Captioned, "Did someone say lost porn?" Rob doesn't show his total remaining portfolio, but he did indeed lose the majority of his money, losing $999,430 in SPY calls in just one day. And as one user pointed out, the beautiful lost porn chart looked just like the Texas-Oklahoma border. That's how you know you finally lost to the house. If you're enjoying this content so far, hit that like and subscribe button, comment below your thoughts, or just a simple hey, and check out the Gigastonks official Discord, the link's in the bio. We're a small but active group of apes discussing our degen plays and having fun while we're at it. Exotic Flatworm 1817, who goes by Hannibal Carthage, got hooked on the first one is always free illusion with a free $2,500 win on Palantir calls. Next thing you know though, he's lost 7K on AMD calls, 64K on the notorious MULN Automotive, which I actually just covered a couple of months back, and most recently posted that he's getting, quote, cooked, losing another $30,000 on Nvidia calls. As WallStreetBets pointed out, getting cooked right before the 3-day weekend has got to be one of the worst feelings in the world. Truly a retarded play by a highly regarded individual. The next and final victim of SEPTEM-BEAR season is Dry Yellow 4906, who's invested in everything from penny stock Greenwave to gold bullion. Dry Yellow took to WallStreetBets this past week to reveal that he'd never yet sold his Greenwave stock. For those of you wondering, this is an absolute piece of garbage penny stock that's lost money over and over and over again for its bag holders, not just since OP bought, but literally for like 4 or 5 years straight. A little gem in here was that OP, being an electrician, scraps copper all the time, and his coworkers call him Scrappy Dick because that's pretty much all he does. Claiming he was now starting a, quote, healthy new chapter with no options, WallStreetBets couldn't help but meme him, pointing out that it's not the first time we've heard that around here. What about you? We're just a few days into September. Are you feeling anxious about the market's performance in the coming fall and winter? Or are you a permabull? Or maybe you're a gay bear loaded up on SPY puts. Whoever you are, you're more than welcome in the Gigastonks community Discord. Not only do we discuss trading strategies, but we've just launched a community paper trading fund. Hop on in and check it out. Subscribe if you're new here and hit the like button, and comment below one ticker you think we're going to see a 50% or more drop in the next 2 to 3 months. I'll see you all soon. Stay safe and hold on to your bear spray.